banks were given to us by the Knights Templars, the Masonic Lodge of Knights Templars in Europe. Our educational institutions, universities and colleges were given to us by the Masonic Order coming out of Rome. This is why the square martyr board is a Catholic symbol. And Jews, how many Jews know that when you wear a yarmulke, that's not Jewish, it's Roman? That's why the Pope wears a yarmulke. That's why the cardinals wear the yarmulke. It's a Roman symbol, it's not Jewish. The Jews were told to wear the yarmulke to show subjection to Rome. And they got so used to using it, they think it's a Jewish symbol. It's not Jewish, it's Roman. So many people willingly bend themselves to what their masters want from them. What your masters want is for you to be in compliance, for you to think what they have told you to think.
When you hear researchers saying the tiny hats run the world as some clever code talk for Jews, they are at least half correct. They just haven't dug deep enough to know who the real tiny hats are. Here, former Jesuit Pope Francis gives the Master Mason handshake to former Queen Elizabeth, former head of the Order of the Garter, seen here adorned in Knights Templar crosses and Masonic B regalia, also a dame of the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar banking faction. So much for separation of church and state, and England is supposed to be Protestant and against the Vatican. Here she is being inducted as a high priestess into the modern, bastardized Septenatanist Order of the Council of Druids, keeping in mind that the real Druids were genocided long ago by these same peoples. So what is the Queen doing out in the woods with these high priests of the order? The same thing our world leaders are doing out at Bohemian Grove every year in front of a big owl, celebrating their control of the world and ignorant masses. The owl has wisdom and can see in the dark. You and I, not so much. That's why it's on their money that you and I think is ours. Even researchers like this one, trying to put this impossible puzzle together, who never look higher than the mid-level Illuminati or House of Rothschild, at least know to put the Grand Council of Druids near the very top. Many claim the Jews run Hollywood, and the big studio executives, many directors and big actors are most certainly Jewish names. So it's strange that it's named after the Hollywood tree, alleged to be used by Druids to make magic wands for spellcasting, which is exactly what Hollywood movies are created for, and not named Goldstein-Bergstein wood. Yes, there are loads of Jews in Hollywood, and there are loads more who aren't. But who is really running the place? That's the real story, as Jordan Maxwell said.
Now, the greatest strategy to win the mind over that the Jesuits used was Jesuit theater, Jesuit drama. Jesuit drama program of theater developed for educational and propagandist purposes in the colleges of the Society of Jesus during the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. Cultivated as a medium for disseminating Roman Catholic doctrine, drama flourished in the Jesuit schools for more than 200 years, evolving from modest student exercises to elaborate productions that often rivaled the contemporary public stage in polish and technical skill. The earliest recorded performance of a Jesuit play was in 1551, and it grew into a mighty organization. Jesuit playwrights also drew upon material from pagan mythology, ancient history, contemporary events, all reinterpreted in terms of Catholic doctrine. So it was very cleverly done. Their stagecraft kept pace with all the newest technological developments. Music was an important element in most of the plays, ranging from simple songs to works that called for large orchestra and chorus. And Mozart, at the age of 11, wrote his first music for Jesuit theater because his father was one of the directors in Jesuit drama. And this is where the great music world was introduced into this way of acting and affecting the mind. Eventually included ballet, opera was brought in, and extravagance and luxury of many of the Jesuit productions came under heavy attack. Many of the productions were enormously expensive. So they spared no cost Jesuit priest Athanasius Kircher then added something to this theater. And what he invented was the megaphone, so that he could speak to greater audiences. And then he invented broadcasting. So he is the father of the modern technology that we see right here in our midst today. Camera theater. And he perfected what was called the magic lantern, lanterna magica, the instrument where you could project images on a screen, moving images. So this was the origin of the modern cinema. Now, another interesting point that they had was the invention of cowboy movies, which were the first movies that were ever made. And by the way, the cowboys themselves and the whole cattle industry in North America was introduced by the Jesuits. They introduced it. And the one who did it was a German, Eusebio Kino, whose statue is one of the two representing Arizona in the US Capitol building. He was a Jesuit professor from Ingolstadt College in Bavaria. This is where the entire Illuminist movement started. In these cowboy movies, there was always a morality. And the morality was always good versus evil, but it was not on the basis of scripture that it was determined what was good or what was evil. There was another underlying morality, so that man in himself could decide what was right or wrong, and ruling by the gun. The bad guys normally lost in these movies, and the good guys won. And that's how it started. And all the actors were high Masons. If you take those early actors, Frank Sinatra, all of those that were involved in those movies, John Wayne, they were all 33-degree Freemasons. And if you follow it down through the line to this very day, most of the actors, I would say the great majority, if not all, of the major actors are all high Masons. All the singers, all of them. Now, if you're a major strategist, you don't want anyone to know that you are pulling the strings. So you are always behind the scenes, and you will have your front men. And the front men that they introduce, of course, are the Jews. They love using the Jews and term it Zionism. But these are papal court Jews. These are not Jews in the sense as we would understand from the Bible. Now, after World War II, during September 1957, Pope John XXIII gave Jesuit theater a broader horizon with his encyclical Miranda Prorsus. And this is what he wrote. Men must be brought into closer communion with one another. They must become socially minded. Have you heard of social doctrine? Their technical arts, cinema, sound, broadcasting, and television can achieve this aim far more easily than the printed word. The Catholic Church is keenly desirous that these means be converted to the spreading and advancement of everything that can be truly called good. Embracing, as she does, the whole of human society within the orbit of her divinely appointed mission, she is directly concerned with the fostering of civilization amongst all people. So here is a move to embrace all of humanity. That means all of humanity must receive the same mindset. In 1964, Pope Paul VI amplified this encyclical, Miranda Prorsus, with the decree Inter Mirifica amongst the wonders. And what he said is stunning. He said, quote, "It is the Church's birthright to use," please note, "to use and own the press, the cinema, the radio, television, and others of like nature." That must include the internet. So how much of the media world does he control? Do they want to control? Own and control. All of it. All of it. Then he cited a special responsibility for the proper use of the means of social communication, which rests on journalists, writers, actors, designers, producers, exhibitors, distributors, operators, sellers, critics. So even that which you hear about that which is done by them will be done by them, so the critics will be either on this side or that side of the spectrum, using Hegelian dialectic to so confuse you that you don't know whether you're Arthur or Martha at the end of the day. So it is the Church's birthright, not only to own, but to control all media, all social media.